These are exactly the same. They are not different at all. For everybody who was like, you guys called us Nazis, so we voted for Trump. Fine, I get it. But now you're fucking Nazis. Now he is a Nazi. Now the Nazis are out there. So you either got to walk away or say, yeah, we were Nazis the whole time. We didn't really care that you guys called us that. We were just mad that you were exposing us as Nazis because you're fucking Nazis. Marco Rubio was on Face the Nation for CBS. And Marco Rubio is looking pretty worn out. I don't think this is aging him well. I think this is a tough presidency for him. But ironically, Marco Rubio makeup is good. Makeup's solid there for Marco Rubio. Ironically, I don't think he knows what he's saying here because it's remarkably stupid.
Well, he was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide. And he met with the head of a political party that has far-right views and some historic ties to extreme groups. The context of that was changing the tone of it. And you know that the censorship was specifically about the right.
No, I have to disagree with you. Free speech was not used to conduct a genocide. The genocide was conducted by an authoritarian Nazi regime that happened to also be genocidal because they hated Jews and they hated minorities and they hated those that they had a list of people they hated, but primarily the Jews. There was no free speech in Nazi Germany. There was none. There was also no opposition in Nazi Germany. They were a sole and only party that governed that country. So that's not an accurate reflection of history.
It's absolutely an accurate reflection of history because Marco Rubio is changing the timeline. Marco Rubio is talking about once Hitler had won and authoritarian control had been established and Hitler was then a dictator. What she's talking about specifically is the ability of Hitler to ascend to that role. If we remember correctly, the beer hall putsch was when Hitler and his buddies stormed a beer hall, which is kind of like where their Congress would meet or their parliament would meet, and they attempted to take over the government, and they failed. Sound familiar? Remember when our guy tried to take over the government and he failed? And then people went to jail, including Hitler. Hitler and all his friends, everybody that tried to do that coup, they all went to jail. But the jail sentences were remarkably short, and they were cut even shorter. And the reason they were cut shorter is because a lot of people in Germany agreed with Hitler. And so there was this massive pressure from millions of people that sided with Hitler that were like, hey, yeah, it was illegal, but it had to be done. It had to be done because this government is taking away our freedoms. It's running us into the ground. And so Hitler was dealt with lightly. Sound familiar? And then Hitler came back and he campaigned. And those people who were with him, they didn't care that he had committed a crime. They didn't care one bit. In fact, the mere fact that he had committed a crime, and that crime was an attempt to take over the government, and he didn't apologize for it. He basically just told him, yeah, dude, this is, in fact, specifically what he said is, you can call it a crime if you want, but this is what the people want. So if the people want this, I'm acting in the best interest of the people. Is this not democracy? Does that sound familiar? When Trump this weekend said, what were the exact words? His exact words were, he who saves the country has not violated any law. How's that any different? He who saves the country has not violated any law. Of course they violated a law. That quote is attributed to Napoleon. Nobody really knows if it was Napoleon, but like historically that's been attributed to Napoleon. It's also been used by dictators like in El Salvador. 3 weeks ago, said the exact same thing. He who saves his country has not violated any law. Marco Rubio's wrong. And Marco Rubio, judging by this tired ass face and these two satellites he's got perched on the side of his head, he's exhausted. He knows he's lying. He knows what he's part of. He knows that he sold out. He absolutely knows it. But this is exactly the same. This is exactly what Hitler did to a T. There's very little gray area between the two here. Very little at all. And by the way, while Hitler was doing this, while he was doing this Germany first, we got to take care of Germans first. You know what else he was doing? He was withdrawing from all these relationships he had in Europe. Or not he had, that Germany had. He was withdrawing from these agreements from World War I that kept Europe in a peaceful state. Exactly similar to Donald Trump now withdrawing from NATO. These are exactly the same. They are not different at all. For everybody who was like, you guys called us Nazis, so we voted for Trump. Fine, I get it. But now you're fucking Nazis. Now he is a Nazi. Now the Nazis are out there. So you either got to walk away or say, yeah, we were Nazis the whole time. We didn't really care that you guys called us that. We were just mad that you were exposing us as Nazis because you're fucking Nazis. You're doing Nazi shit. Everything about this is exactly the same as Nazis. And yes, the Holocaust has not happened. A genocide of a particular people hasn't happened in this country. And maybe it won't happen. But that wasn't the only problem with the Nazis. People, we have to stop treating Nazi Germany as if the only problem with them is that they did a genocide. It was the worst part about them. But they were problematic before that. They were problematic before they killed Jewish people. It was a fascist takeover that ended democracy in Germany. And now there's a party in Germany, the AfD, that's trying to do the exact same thing. And you know what they're not talking about? A genocide. You know what Hitler didn't talk about? A genocide. So while a genocide might not take place, it doesn't fucking matter. It's the same. It's fascism. This is fascism. We're there. We're in a fascist country now. And now we have to stage a revolt. And that revolt can come in the form of Congress standing up, the courts standing up, and fighting back. But we're in a tough position because not only does Trump control the military and now the FBI, and he has an attorney general who's going to squash any investigation into him or anybody like him, but we also have loyalists. I was watching one of my. I mean, I like the podcast. And I think that the guys that run it are, I don't know, doing the best with what they have. But the Anti-Hero podcast, it's a military podcast that exposed Tim Kennedy. And I haven't watched for a while because the last time I watched them, they were literally like, I think I showed a clip here. They were celebrating the fact that we were rounding up immigrants. And they were watching videos of immigrants being like detained and on the ground. And they were like, this warms my heart. And I was just like, man, dude, that's a fucked up thing to say. You could say you agree with it, and I disagree with you, but it warms your heart and makes you happy to see people being arrested and deported from our country. That's pretty bizarre, especially when these people are just, I mean, they're not violent criminals. They're just people. But I tuned in to them, and they were talking about how great it is, how it's so amazing what Pete Hegseth is doing, how it's so amazing what Trump is doing. And you know what? They're just fascists. It's just the truth. It's a fascist regime. Republicans are fascists. Everybody in the party's a fascist. And they can lie to themselves all they want. And I think that that's mostly what they're doing. I do think that a lot of these people are just like covering their eyes and pretending it's not fascism. Fascism is relatively loosely defined. So it's easy for them to like get out of it. You know, they can dance around it all they want. They can spin it all they want, but it's fucking exactly the same. And for Marco Rubio to stand there and say, "Oh no, this is very different. There was no free speech in Germany." Yeah, there was. There was. And then where did it go? The fascists took it over. You think Trump's going to keep free speech alive? If Trump gets power, you think he's going to keep free speech alive? He's already attacking the First Amendment. Repeatedly, every single day, he's going after the First Amendment. We've never seen attacks on the First Amendment like Trump, ever. I've never seen the press attacked in this way, and that's part of a free speech. The press is allowed to say what they want. I've never seen it attacked like this in this country, not once. And they'll just talk free speech until now, and then eventually it'll be like, oh well, we used to have free speech, but then the people they were just too crazy, so we had to take away their free speech. They were just they were too much of a problem. They were in the way, so we had to take away free speech. We'll give it back eventually, though.